I'm a nonfiction reader. So for me to read anything outside of nonfiction is a pretty big deal. But I decided to try reading this book called The Maid, the novel. And it's by Nita Prose. She's a Canadian writer. But beyond just being a writer, she's also an editor. So I love seeing how someone who spends their day job reading other people's work, reviewing it, and making it better is also a very exceptionally talented writer in her own right. Now, the story is about Molly. She's a maid, Molly the maid. And I want to tell you some of the story, but I'm bad about spoiling stuff for people. So I just will tell you this. The descriptions were just so animating because I felt like I was there when Molly's dialogue, or when she has exchanges with other people, like I felt like I could hear her voice. So even though The Maid is not, it has nothing to do with the Netflix series The Maid, I could totally see this being turned into a TV show, or not even a TV show, but like a TV movie or a movie on a streaming service or an actual film, because it was just, the story just really kept me engaged. And I'm not even really into mysteries when it comes to TV, film, or even podcasts, but this story got me. It kept me hooked, kept me engaged. And the thing about it is, it was a pretty quick read. But even though it was a quick read, sometimes I think when people say it's a quick read, that means that the writing's very simplistic. It wasn't. The voice of Molly is of an era. And even though I'm not familiar with that era, I totally felt her. I totally connected to the dialogue, and I felt like she was from a different era. And even though Molly was like super quirky and mad awkward, I loved how detailed her awkwardness was. I love how we learned about how deeply naive she was, and it was revealed gradually throughout the book. So you almost became more sympathetic to her naivete as opposed to being annoyed by it. But I just love this book because it was so well written, and it was just such an interesting, captivating story. So if you haven't heard of this book, I encourage you to check it out. And if you're someone like me who's not even into fiction, highly recommend it, because you won't even feel like you're reading the work of someone who's trying to tell you a story. It all just flows. It felt effortless. That's what it is. It felt like somebody was telling me a story. Anyway, The Maid, the novel. Check it out if you haven't. And even if you're not into reading, like, this is the book that you should read, because I don't even think it's like for a particular demographic. It's just a great piece of work, and I really hope you check it out.